In the summer of 2017, something strange happened in my apartment. AXUN had vanished. His clothes still hung in the closet. The faint scent of his cologne lingered in the bathroom, and the fridge still held cans of Carlsberg, his favorite beer, cold and crisp. The liquid inside those dark green metal cans stung my fingertips if I held them too long. Xiaomi jumped out of its cat bed lined with blue minus pattern cotton padding, rubbing gently against my leg. Usually so chatty. It was eerily quiet now, as if it sensed my confusion and comforted me softly with its fur. I just hadn't fully processed it yet. Don't be scared. Xiaomi. I moved numbly toward the kitchen, took a glass, opened the dripping beer can, and poured the drink into the cup. Where could AXUN have gone? What had happened to him? What was wrong? Was it my fault? Did his family object, or had he found someone new? Xiaomi let out a sharp meow, jolting me back. Beer had overflowed the glass and streamed down the table like pooling on the floor. That night, I pulled myself together for a deep clean, gave Xiaomi a bath, and cooked a large pot of pillow. No matter where AXUN was, I had to keep living. I was certain he would come back. We had been lovers for 10 years after all. The next morning, I woke to Xiaomi's whiskers brushing my face. It had climbed onto the bed at some point, sniffing me gently. When I opened my eyes, I met its large almond-shaped ones. In its clear blue pupils, I saw my own reflection. I hugged Xiaomi, closed my eyes, and lingered in bed a little longer. Not until my stomach rumbled did I lazily reach for the other side of the bed. The spot where AXUN slept was empty and cold. I jolted fully awake, realizing my fiancé still hadn't returned. For the next week, I stayed home, going nowhere, clutching my phone tightly, terrified of missing any message from him. As the sun set, the darkening room closed in on the fear in my heart. Finally, I could bear it no longer and called AXUN. Ring ring. AXUN, is that you? This is. Before I could finish, the call ended. I knelt on the floor, holding the phone in a daze. Days of exhaustion turned into a dull ache in my kneecaps. AXUN really had left me. We had planned to save up for a trip to Phuket to get married at the end of the year. But summer was nearly over, and the man who had promised to show me the world had abandoned me. In the first week after he left, I did not cry, though sometimes, as I curled up on the sofa watching TV, my bare thighs would grow damp. Swiping a finger across my face, I realized tears were streaming down my cheeks. But that was not crying. My heart was not weeping. I knew that for certain. My heart was busy untangling threads from a messy knot. To make a long story short, everything changed after I ran into Teacher Tang at the supermarket near my community and invited her over. Teacher Tang had been the head of discipline at our high school. Back then, AXUN was in the science building next door and often snuck over to the liberal arts building during evening study to bring me snacks. Once, Teacher Tang caught him and made him stand in the hallway the entire night. She had been extremely strict back then, but now her eyes were filled with exhaustion. I served her a cup of green tea. She hesitated, then told me she had a heart condition. Apologetically, I replaced it with mineral water. Amid the noisy background of the television, my temples began to throb violently. Teacher Tang flipped through channels obsessed and played with the remote. I cannot remember what she said. My head hurt so badly that all I could think about was going to the pharmacy for ibuprofen. I grabbed my keys and wallet and left. When I returned, she was gone. On the table sat the cold green tea and the untouched mineral water. From that day onward, everything went wrong, and I never saw AXUN again. That day was bizarre in every way. I had clearly ordered a lemon pie, but the delivery man brought lemon spiribus by mistake. The balloon flowers on the balcony withered overnight. I had just paid the water bill. Yet, another reminder was stuck on the door. If that was not strange enough, the most terrifying thing happened the next morning. I went shopping at the community supermarket and ran into Teacher Tang again at the checkout. She looked haggard and asked to come to my place. I served her mineral water and she began flipping channels. Then the doorbell rang at noon. and the delivery man stood there holding a box of lemon spiribus. By now, you must feel the fear too. 3. Mathematically. A Mobius strip has only one surface and one boundary. If a tiny insect crawls along it, it will loop endlessly. What has happened to me these days feels like falling into a world shaped like a Mobius strip. No matter how hard I try to change the variable, staying indoors, avoiding the supermarket, staying away from Teacher Tang, refusing to take out, everything repeats at fixed times, just like the day before or even the day before that. I never know how Teacher Tang ends up in my living room, but by the time I snap out of it, she has been chatting on the sofa for ages. I miss AXUN terribly. I need someone to explain this to me. But he has vanished completely from my world, refusing to speak even when the phone connects. It feels awful. At first, I thought it was a Truman Show minus style pranked Rumen lives in a man minus maid world, where everything he encounters is fate, and everyone acts to deceive him. Evidence that I was caught in a similar scheme was that no matter what I talked to Teacher Tang about, she would hem and haw and steer the conversation back to her husband and children. The delivery man in yellow never asked me to pay. Once, I quietly asked if I owed him money, and he accidentally let slip that someone had already paid. Clearly, someone was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Amid this endless cycle, I discovered a new variable, something that never repeated. I remember clearly the morning AXUN left for work. He wore a light gray suit, a black silk Armani tie, and tucked a vinyl record wrapped in brown paper under his arm. We had listened to it the night before. It was Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker Suite. I especially loved Waltz of the Flowers, and I told AXUN I wanted to walk down the aisle to it at our wedding. He had taken the record because a friend wanted to borrow. But the day I bathed Xiaomi and cleaned the house, I found that very record in a drawer in the cloakroom. How am I so certain? Because there was a coffee stain I had accidentally spilled on the brown paper cover that morning, a dark brown blot like a half-minus shattered heart. This was the record I had planned to play at our wedding. Worse still, next to the record lay the crumpled black silk Armani tie. AXUN had come back secretly. If this endless loop was just a nightmare I could not wake from, then how could his tie and the record feel so real? It was obvious. HIXUN not only knew what was going on, he was probably the mastermind. He dared not answer my calls, dared not face me. My eyes shed tears, but my heart did not. I had so many questions. The man behind this fog, my lover of 10 years, I suddenly saw him in a new light. For on the 14th day, I woke up in the closet. I had not slept in my bed for a long time. The scent and warmth of my lover on the other side, the softness of cotton against skin, all felt like invisible needles pricking my heart. During this time, I found new places to sleep next to Xiaomi's cat bed, in the bathtub, on the balcony bay window, in the closet, even under the dining table. These new spots brought me peaceful sleep, and only with full energy could I endure this game with an invisible opponent. When I missed AXUN terribly, I carved his name in hidden corners of the apartment. Waking up suddenly in the middle of the night, my chest would ache fiercely. Have you ever experienced such a night? The streets at 3 o'clock were desolate. Occasionally, passing cars cast long dashes of light on the walls, fleeting brightness crawling across my skin. Who could be returning so late? I always hoped it was my AXUN. But the cars drove away, leaving the room in deeper darkness and silence. By dawn, I would find tear stains on my pillow. I began to find ways to break the monotony of the cycle. I tried talking to Teacher Tang. If she knew the truth and was part of this puzzle, she would eventually show some flaw. I brought up AXUN, and she asked, "You still can't forget him?" I smiled and said, "How could I?" I noticed Teacher Tang's expression was odd. Realizing I was watching her, she looked down awkwardly and twisted the mineral water cup in her hand, her shoulders slumping almost imperceptibly. That gesture told me Teacher Tang knew something and she was a sentimental person. I said slowly, "Teacher, did you use the phrase can't forget when you mentioned AXUN? We're getting married this winter. How could I forget my fiancé?" Teacher Tang looked at me, hesitating to speak, as if gazing at an endangered fish gasping for air on a deck. If you know the truth, I slid off my chair, my knees hitting the floor unconsciously, hot tears scalding my cheeks. I struggled to steady my voice and whispered, "If you know, please tell me where he is. I really can't take this anymore." Teacher. Dive teacher. Back then AXUN was still a teenager. Boys rode bicycles speeding down the camphor minus line slope at the school gate, their blue minus and minus white school uniforms billowing behind them like sails. The winds of May, June, and July brushed over our teenage faces. Even the wind adored our youth. I was so happy then, ignorant of sorrow, chatting with my desk mate about touch. We thought Kazuya Wasuji looked stunning in his baseball cap, dreaming of being Minamiya Sakura. We giggled secretly under our desks, talking about the masked villains in Detective Conan. Those days were sweeter and fresher than a 1-U on strawberry ice cream cone. It was our era. Many stars hadn't debuted yet, and information didn't spread as fast as it does today. Geese wrote love letters by hand, blushing as they slipped them into girls' desks when no one was looking. One day, I found an anime card in my desk. Kazuya Wasuji, the one I had longed for but could never buy. It was tucked inside a pure white envelope with no extra words. For the first time, I didn't tell my desk mate. In the days that followed, I found new touch cards every few days. God knows how hard those cards were to collect in our small city, but I could never figure out who the secret giver was. Funny to say, I felt like I was delusional, guessing every suspicious boy in class. I never would have guessed he's EHIXUN. It was impossible. Teacher, you know every class has that cold, distant kid who sleeps in the back row all day. If his grades weren't unbelievably good, a head teacher, whom he talked back to countless times, would have expelled him long ago. He was that aloof boy, his school uniform zipper always undone, a black beanie pulled low over his brows, a stern face hidden in the shadow of his eyelashes. No one dared approach him. We all remembered how the boy who teased him ended up with a dislocated arm. After school, the long slope at the school gate was always lively. Boys zoomed down from the top, letting go of the handlebars, drawing gasps and quiet envy from the girls. But I had a phobia of crossing roads, just like some people get scalp tingles from dense polka dots. I simply cowled and crossed busy streets. My friends had all crossed, waving and calling to me from the other side. But there were so many cars that day. I lingered for a long time until they laughed and left. No one believing a teenager like me cowled and crossed the road. I think they regretted leaving later. The next second, a hand grabbed my sweaty, nervous palm. I turned to see he's EHIXUN, his head raised, chestnut eyes empty like mist before dawn, his school uniform slung over one shoulder. He never looked directly at me, but held my hand naturally as we crossed the road. When we reached the other side, he turned and walked back. He had crossed the road just to walk me over. As I realized this, night fell around us. A stream of car lights and neon blurred people and things into insignificant backdrops. But a silhouette was unique, burned into the scene like a hard hole in a curtain, stubborn, awkward, impossible to ignore ever after. Sixth teacher, funny enough, I had a crush on him first. I was the youngest in the class back then, only 14. What did I know at 14? Everything and nothing. I smiled, picking at the white dead skin on my fingers. These hands, wrinkled from constant cleaning lately. Who would believe they once held my first heartbeat, all because of a minute's touch of fingertips? EHIXUN became my Kazuya Wasuji when chatting with my desk mate about new anime plots. His cold, mature expression flashed in my mind. When you have a crush, even the wind and moon become beautiful. Walking behind him after school, the willow catkins blowing by made me cry. This secret, hidden love burned and fermented in my heart day by day. I was both afraid of him and drawn to him like a cat, and brushing past him, joyful for the brief encounter, terrified it would be the last. Funny, isn't it? I grew up flustered in that state on the day of our junior high graduation photo. I stood carefully in the row in front of him. He always stood apart from the crowd, even in the group photo, his rebellious gaze making everyone else fade into the background. I was part of that fading crowd, shy, timid, and reserved. Standing right in front of him, I spent 3 or 4 whole years liking him. I studied hard to get into the key high school for him, muttering vocabulary in my sleep under the covers at night. How far a ugly duckling is from the sky, so far was I, humble and small, from Hixun. Every step I took was to relive that brief closeness, to hold on to the warmth of his fingertips a little longer. During those years, I thought I would lose him many times. So many girls liked him. In high school, Hixun ranked first in his grade consistently, yet the school broke its tradition and didn't make him the outstanding student representative. He had given a speech once with a script revised by the head teacher. "Teacher, you must remember what he said." He didn't even glance at the paper, saying slowly, "Life is short, seize the day. Our goals should be free, spirited, love when we want, indulge when we want," before he could finish. The discipline director snatched the microphone. The students below erupted in cheers and whistles, even the teachers on duty unable to calm them down. We had grown so used to standing obediently and listening to lectures, to hearing outstanding students drone on about virtue and grades every Monday. But adults had forgotten, and even the student representatives had forgotten. We were only 17 or 18. Hixun had always been cool, but this rebellion made him even more popular with girls. Love letters piled up on his desk like snowflakes, weighing on my heart like snow, crushing my young, green feelings until they wilted. So when Liang Hu, the prettiest girl in the grade, walked gracefully onto the tennis court and confessed to Hixun face without a letter, my heart shattered. I was sitting in front of him, acting as a quiet ball boy by the court. It was a bold move, using his most striking traits to catch his attention. The lovely iris scent of Liang Hu's perfume lingered in the classroom all autumn afternoon. Before her proud confession, I was defeated like Napoleon's army in Moscow, numb in body and soul. "I already have someone I like," he said calmly, not lifting his eyes. In the silence of the classroom, that was all he said. 7 back then. Hixun and I lived on opposite sides of the small city. From the age of 14, I followed him quietly after school every day, walking a short way before turning back. It was as if treading the same path he took, passing the same shade trees, could bridge our countless differences and make us a little more